We're going to talk about an incredibly difficult topic today.
Can you explain for me why Brittany Peach is getting let go?
We're going to talk about being fired, something that'll happen to a lot, if not most people throughout their career.
Is laying off workers yet again.
Going to cut 9,000 workers.
Google is now offering buyouts.
Hundreds are expected to be laid off from Boeing's plant in Charleston next year.
Well, BP's announced it's cutting thousands of jobs as part of a major cost-saving drive.
Getting fired, regardless of reason, is painful for all people. But I'm here to help you through it, so you'll either be prepared if or when it eventually does happen, or right now, if you're going through it right now. I'm Mike. I've got 25 years background in business from pharma tech and consulting. I've held C-level roles in international companies. I have degrees in business, human resources, and psychology. And on this channel, I cover business and careers. I analyze and pick apart why companies do the things they do. And I provide advice on careers and navigating the corporate world. Today, it's about being fired and how to deal with it. You've likely heard of the stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. Now, this is one of those theories out there that has widespread acceptance among lay people, but the reality is that the scientific foundations for it are not necessarily the best. But the 5 words are still useful. I've unfortunately had to support managers over the years with firing people. Some people stole, some people physically beat up colleagues, others were just toxic colleagues, and sometimes the company just needed to cut costs. With every single one, I saw some version of denial, anger, bargaining, depression, or acceptance. When sitting in the room, some people deal very matter-of-fact with the termination. They say, okay, they read through the document, they have the clarity to not sign anything until they've sought some sort of counsel, where others, they go on the attack. They get belligerent, they get aggressive, and they push back hard. And a vast majority are hit with shock, denial, and deep sadness. Even if you've been laid off multiple times, it's still something that takes a toll on most people. If you're in the room and you hear your manager saying, this conversation is not going to the way you expected, I suggest you do the following. Listen, stay quiet, get the paperwork, don't sign anything, take the paperwork home, read it through, get legal counsel, a lawyer, a union rep, somebody that knows what they're talking about. And I don't mean your dad or your uncle or some other rando who thinks they know something about employment law. Get someone that actually has credentials and listen to their advice. Sometimes you have leverage to negotiate a better deal. Sometimes you don't, but you won't know until you've received guidance. And almost regardless of where in the world you live, in the West, at least, you don't lose any rights up front by not signing immediately. Some companies will sometimes give you 2 pieces of paper, a good offer and a bad offer, in the hope that you sign the good offer. Take both offers home and know that you have time to think things through. Your rights likely don't change. And I say likely because I have a global audience and things do depend on specific national legislations and local customs. But the rule of thumb is don't sign. Take it home, get help. Then get out. Now that you've sought guidance, you might have a negotiating position. You might not. But you're most likely not getting your job back. And would you really want it? Now, depending on the country, and this is why I say talk to an expert who knows your country's rules, generally speaking, the things that are potentially up for negotiation are your notice period, what happens to vacation balances, calculation of possible bonuses, possibly prorating them, access to benefits, equity, and continuation of vesting. All of these things are important. But if there's one thing I would suggest you always try and negotiate, it's being released from your work duties. This is going to be incredibly country dependent, but generally speaking, it's not going to be in the interest of the company to keep you on board. You're likely not going to be performing to the maximum of your ability anyway. For a lot of people, the mental health implications of showing up for a job that doesn't want you are not great. Try to have them let you go as quickly as possible. If they're offering you 6 months extra salary to stay on, then that might be a different story. But staying on for a month or 2 for nothing extra often isn't worth the mental impact. Focus on moving on. I've got a very tough time with the concept of closure when it comes to getting fired. Some people feel the need to speak their mind, to take that exit interview and tell the company how incompetent they are. Some people want to talk to colleagues about how the company is going to hell, how the manager is a psycho, and how HR is evil. Venting is fine and it can be helpful.
What do you suggest I tell them?
As long as it doesn't impede you from focusing on moving on. Your focus should not be on your ex-boyfriend or ex-girlfriend and how toxic they were. Your focus should be on you and moving on. That doesn't mean ignoring what has happened, but it's the difference between being in a hole and digging a deeper hole for yourself, or thinking of ways to dig yourself out of the hole. Getting yourself into a forward-looking state of mind is more productive. The longer you concern yourself with what has just happened, the more you delay your moving on. There's a huge difference between being let go and knowing you have no savings and your salary runs out in 2 weeks versus having unemployment insurance and a 9-month severance package. Reality affords some people the time to take a breather where others don't have that luxury. But if at all possible, take a short breather. And by a breather, I mean don't go home on the day of your termination and update your LinkedIn and click on Open to Work and post the I'm available for work post just yet. LinkedIn updates that are posted when you're still in the state of shock are far more at risk of either sounding like panic, or in the worst case scenario, you risk writing or saying something that jeopardizes your terms of your exit. Whether you like it or not, most people will have a clear reaction to being fired that shines through in their application or in the job interview. And it's the difference between going to the interview and saying, I honestly don't know why I was fired and I applied for this job because I just kind of have to have something, versus saying, I was part of a big redundancy process. Of course, it wasn't pleasant to be made redundant, but I'm confident in my skills and my abilities, and that's why I haven't applied to every single available position. I've been deliberate in my choices, and I applied with your company because the role resonates with me and the challenges I'm looking for. Take as long a breather as is realistically and economically possible. Get the anger, get the fear, get the panic out of your body so it doesn't hurt your job hunting performance. Once you've taken that breather, you need to put together a plan. Your plan needs to have the following components. What do you want to do going forward? Clearly map out your ideal role with the characteristics it should embody. Do you want to continue doing what you have been doing so far or not? What kind of company do you want to work at? Big and corporate, small and startup-y? Is job security more important than salary, travel, leadership, relocation, remote work? Map out the ideal scenario. And I do suggest, honestly, write your own job ad. What does it say you'll be doing? And what are the must-haves and what are the nice-to-haves? It's not that you'll necessarily get specifically this job with everything that you've written down, but it's about turning your mindset towards running towards something and not away from something. This exercise is going to help you articulate in a job application or in an interview what you are looking for and why you are applying for X, Y, or Z. Most experts are going to suggest that your CV is tailored for the specific job that you're applying for, and I totally agree with that. But it's good to have your base template CV already tailored to your ideal job. I'm not going to get into what a good CV looks like. There are like a million guides out there, and you can also use AI to help you. But make sure your base CV is factually correct. It's easy to read, make sure it's up to date, and make sure it speaks to what you are good at and what you want to be doing. Now, if my content speaks to you and you find it valuable, well, then I'm going to ask you to leave a like and consider clicking the subscribe button. I've still got a relatively new channel, so it's important to me to understand what resonates and what doesn't. A like and a subscribe is hugely appreciated and incredibly helpful. Thanks. Next, you start mapping out industries, companies, and sectors. Have an idea of the companies you would like to work at. Also, map out the most relevant job boards for your type of skill set. Usually it's just LinkedIn, but there could be others. Build a structure where you follow up on these companies and sites on a regular basis. Sign up for updates, map keywords of specific roles, do all those kind of things. If you're comfortable with unsolicited applications, then do so. In some countries, they work. In others, unsolicited applications are useless. Generally, I'd say they don't really work in a huge corporate environment, but in smaller businesses, they have a much larger chance of success. And in some companies and some businesses, restaurants, just showing up and asking for a job does really work. The part I hate, and that most people hate, is networking. I do not particularly enjoy drinking coffee with people to chit-chat about job opportunities, but the reality is you need to do it. You need to map out your own network. Who can you reach out to? Who's in your close circle? Just like you have your tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 LinkedIn connections, there are the connections that you feel you can talk to, that you can reach out to. Don't expect these people to hire you. That's not why you're reaching out. Most people don't get a job in this way. What you're doing is reaching out to someone who might know someone, who might know someone, who might know that a job is opening soon. Your job is to reach out to people for a coffee or a Coke and let them know you expect nothing of them, but want to catch up and let them know what you're looking for should something turn up. Also, ask them if they know someone that might be good to talk to. Worst case, they'll say no. Best case, they'll give you a name and they'll introduce you. And what do you say to these people over these cups of coffee? Well, you talk about the ideal role you're looking for, the one you mapped out, and you follow up by sending them your CV. 99 out of 100 people will lead to absolutely nothing, but one might lead to something that might lead to something that leads to a job. You need structure. Make a rule. 1 job per day, 10 jobs per day, 100 jobs per day. 1 email asking for a coffee per day, 1 per week, or maybe it's just do 1 thing per day or 10 things per day. Your goal isn't to blaze out 1,000 applications on day 1 and then drink tequila for the next 3 weeks while waiting for the replies. The structure's there to keep you active. It's there to create a routine that you stick to throughout the process. Hopefully you find a job quickly, but if not, you need a process that you can stick to in the long run, just like a training regime. Personally, I would say you need to do something every single day related to your job hunting, Monday to Friday. Take the weekends off just like everybody else, but your new job is getting a job, and that requires you to do something every single day. It's applying, it's reaching out, it's drinking coffee. You have to keep it ambitious and realistic. And more importantly, you have to make sure you have a structure and a schedule that you are consistent with. This isn't just about keeping the activity level up, it's also about your mental well-being. Not everybody ends up with a depression, but long-term unemployment takes its toll, and the more you can systematize things, the better. If you get a part-time job, try to build a structure that allows you to continue to look for the ideal job. Build a process and a plan that you can follow so you don't lose sight of where you want to end up. You need more structure, and I've seen it so many times. Somebody gets fired, and if they have a long severance period, in the first month, everybody's happy. They have free time, they decide to start a project to finish resurfacing the driveway, fix up the house, walk the Camino, or take an extra PhD. And after 2 months, they're on the couch watching Netflix 8 hours a day. You need to be realistic, but also systematic. Drop the idea of training for an Ironman. Substitute it out for getting out of the house every morning at 8 for a long walk. Don't necessarily go for an ambition of getting an 8% body fat 6-pack, but commit to going to the gym 2, 3, or 4 times a week. Being unemployed takes its toll mentally, and you counter it by having a realistic structure that you can stick to in the long run. The structure should keep you active. It should give you something to do other than applying for jobs and dealing with rejections, and it should get you out of the house. Believe it or not, very few people get fired and end up on the street. Sometimes it takes time. Sometimes the money isn't great in the next job. But if you were employed before, the massive likelihood is that you will be employed again. Take comfort in that. You will eventually get to an interview. And at that interview, you need to do all the things you have to do in every interview. Go online, there are tons of guides that cover the topic. But specifically for you, there's one thing that you need to keep front and center. Don't be desperate. You are unemployed, but you are still high value. The moment you sit in an interview and you state you just need a job is the moment the interviewer writes a no in their notepad. The moment you can't articulate why this specific job is interesting to you is also the moment they move you into the no column. Interviews are about demonstrating skill and experience and cultural fit. That's the key, but on top of that, you have to be able to demonstrate eagerness, focus, and standards. That's why you wrote down that ideal job description at the beginning of the process. You can explain what you are looking for, why you're relevant, and why this job is relevant to you. You demonstrate focus and determination. The online manosphere has a lot of nonsense in it, but one thing that applies to both men and women in a job hunting scenario is that you have to demonstrate that you are high value because it increases your appeal. And that doesn't mean you have to go all Chad and alpha male, but being able to communicate your worth and setting standards is generally appealing in a job interview. And at some point, you've got the job. When you do that, you reach out to all those people that drank coffee with you and you thank them, and maybe you even drink coffee with them again. You tell them that if they ever need you, you'll be there for them as they were for you. Headhunters and recruiters that you were consistently in contact with, that were respectful towards you, send them a thank you as well. And then you review what you did to get there. What worked? What would you change to your process? What did you learn? You don't have to journal it if you're not that type, but consider the things you went through and how you'll deal with things if getting fired happens to you again. And then there's the last step. And that's maybe 6 months or a year down the road in your new job. Review that job. How far is it from your ideal? Is it living up to your expectations? What's good about it and what's bad? If things are great, then fabulous. If not, then consider when you have the energy to, in the comfort of your new job, to look for the ideal job you described. It's mentally taxing being fired. And even if you're not at fault, the questions still linger for a lot of people. The best thing to do is to take that short breather and then move on systematically. Be realistic, but be consistent. It's not the end of the world. It won't necessarily feel that way when it happens, but down the road, you'll know that's the reality. It's a thing that happens, and you'll learn from it, and you'll move on. Now, if you've been through a layoff, share what helped you the most. There's a potential support system here for others as well. If you're going through it right now, leave a comment and let others share their advice. And also, subscribe for more career guidance that's honest and hopefully useful. See you soon.